alongside Moyna McLaren, who's the Deputy Clerk and Solicitor to the Committee, Deborah Gilkinson, who's a Licensing Manager, Shona Miki, who's a Licensing Officer, and Hayden Thompson, who's a Clerical Assistant. Could I now ask the Clerk to confirm any apologies received for this afternoon's meeting and confirm the attendance of those in the chambers and online?
Yes, thank you, Convener. I'm just going to run through the apologies. They are for anyone that was in the meeting or watching the meeting this morning. They are very much the same, but I'll run through it for anyone just tuning now. So there's apologies from Councillors Allen and Anderson, Bailey Brock, and Councillors Carr, Chan, Reid, and Grant Stewart. In the chamber, as you've already listed, their convener, but we've got a couple of councillors online, so I'm just going to ask them to confirm that they are present and can hear us and everything. Councillor Harvey?
Yep, present.
Thank you. And Councillor Robertson?
Present.
Thank you very much, Councillor Robertson. I think just one further little bit of housekeeping, convener, is just with regards to today's agenda. Also, we've heard item 3 this morning. Item 4 and item 5 were withdrawn from consideration prior to the meeting.
Members, we're now moving on to item 6 in your document pack, which is on page 79 onwards, which is a grant of a short-term letting licence, which is for a new operator at the Curry Inn, 17 Strathay Lodges, Aberfeldy. For this item of business, we are joined on the phone by the applicant Zoe and James Porteous. We're also joined in the chambers by the objector to the application, Anna Mackenzie. I'll now hand over to Moyna McLaren, who will introduce the report and advise on the procedures for the hearing.
Hello. This is an application for a 3-year short-term let licenses, and it's been brought before the committee because of the objection. And what we'll do is we'll hear from the objector first, and then what will happen after that is the committee will have an opportunity to ask questions, and then we'll go to the applicant, hear from the applicant, and the same process will happen. It will be asked questions, and then it will be you'll be able to get an opportunity at the end to sum up your position, and then the applicant will be given an opportunity to sum up their position. Thank you.
Anna, could I please advise you that the licensing committee members have received and thoroughly reviewed a copy of all of your objection prior to the meeting. It is requested you keep any explanation of your objection to no more than 10 minutes. Additionally, grounds for objection or representation should not be added at this time. Only the grounds of objection and representations included in your initial submission may be referenced. Would you like to start, please?
Thank you. As per all the points raised in our written objection, the location, positioning and design of this lodge is completely inadequate for it to be allowed to become a holiday let. These premises are simply not suitable in regard to location and character, nature and extent of holiday lets, the kind of people likely to be in these premises, and the possibility of undue nuisance under order and safety. All these are valid circumstances under which a license should not be granted as per the PKC short-term licensing scheme, and all are explained in detail with supporting photos in our objection. This lodge should not be where it is at all. Never mind also becoming a short-term let with all its implications. This is our home. This is where we live. We have the right for our privacy and safety. We should not have to worry about total strangers coming in and out and invading these rights. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Mackenzie. Do members have any, Mrs. Mackenzie, do members have any questions for Mrs. Mackenzie? Anything online? If there are no questions, so Mrs. Mackenzie, could I invite Dr. and Mrs. Porteous to provide details of the application and respond to the objection.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yep, we can hear you.
Hi there, my name's Zoe. I am Dr. Porteous, and my husband is actually at work, so it's just myself on the line. In response to the objection, I'd just like to kind of give you some background about us. We currently live in London, but we have roots locally in Stanley and Crieff, and we holiday often in the local area and have a huge respect for the local area. While on holiday around 2.5 years ago, we saw that there was some lodges that could be bought off plan, and at the time we didn't think much of it and kind of bought them on a whim. However, thinking that we would just use it for our family and holidays, which we still wish to do. However, 2 years down the line, everything's a lot more expensive and we can't afford to have the property sitting empty when we're not present. The purchase of the property had certain conditions, one of which was that it cannot be a permanent residence and that you couldn't be there all of your time. The property is on some grounds with 19 holiday lodges, and the area is being marketed as a holiday village as per the planning permission that was granted for the grounds. Planning permission has been granted for all of the lodges, and they have been built in keeping with planning permission. Therefore, there's not kind of anything else to say really about where the lodge is. I understand Anna's concern about the locality to her house, but it's still within the grounds and planning permission has been granted for that. I believe that there was some kind of shrubs and bushes to be planted between our lodge and their property. I have been in touch with the developer, and he said that planning was approved in 2022, and that actually no planting was agreed to be there. However, that he has agreed verbally to plant some young trees in between the properties. The whole site has kind of recently been finished from a building perspective, and the groundwork is still to be done, very much in keeping with planning, and the residents owners association of all the lodges are working together to make sure that the site is completed as it should be. One of the other concerns raised by Mrs. Mackenzie in her objection was the safety of the road and people taking shortcuts. Certainly myself and my family haven't done that, but I have been in touch with Councillor John Duff a few months ago regarding road safety on the A827, as that is our direct route along the pavement into Aberfeldy. And I know that many members of the owners community have also been in touch, and it's been brought forward by the road safety team with a hope to reduce the speed limit and improve the crossing with a dropped curb as per should have been done by planning, and that's all being reviewed. I've also been in touch with Andy Baxter, who is one of the planning officers, and he said that the site is still being investigated as some of the groundwork has not yet been completed to planning satisfaction. I feel that Anna's main complaint is with the planning permission for the holiday site as a whole, and it's just unfortunate that our lodge is the closest one to her house. However, 5 meters to the right side of our property has been granted planning, and that includes for them to have a hot tub. So I think us marketing our holiday let to be child friendly in keeping with families like us with young children should probably produce less noise than the one that's already been granted to the right side of us. I welcome any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Porteous. I have an initial question. It's about you've mentioned that you live in London. Did you say London?
Yeah.
And who will be managing the property when you're in London? Who's going to be your agent?
So we have signed up with Sykes Holiday Cottages, as opposed to kind of Airbnb, as mentioned in the objection. And we have a local company, and they're listed in our application, and their main manager is the named person who will be cleaning and reviewing the property in between guests coming and going.
Could I ask you also, will you be giving Mrs. Mackenzie the telephone number of your agent so that if they're in the event of any problems, that she can get in touch with somebody to have them resolved quickly?
Yes, I can certainly pass that on.
And finally, you mentioned about families, but are you anticipating there may well be parties or barbecues or whatever on the balcony?
I certainly hope there's not parties. I've put a lot of time and love into decorating, and feel that it's my home from home, and I will certainly, in the welcome pack for any guests staying, be explicit in that no parties are allowed and that they should be respectful to our neighbours. And regards to barbecues, at the moment the property doesn't have a barbecue, so that's, you know, unless you bring our own, I'm not facilitating that.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Braun.
Thanks, Sabrina, and thank you for your deputation, Dr. Porteous. Just a quick question. You mentioned the property is for your own use when your family's here. So my question was, how many weeks of the year would it be let out as a short-term let, do you think?
So our affiliation, or the kind of contract that we have agreed to with Sykes Holidays, is that during the summer period between April and September, we will have 8 weeks of access to the property. Other times it will be available for rental. And during the winter term, we can have as much access to the property as we wish, which I suspect will be mainly over the Christmas and New Year period and school holidays. And with that time, it will be available for rental.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions from Dr. Porteous? Online? Dr. Porteous, could I ask if you've registered your disposal of your waste with the council for commercial waste disposal?
Oh, sorry, no, I haven't. We have private waste disposal, which we pay for separately for our factoring, which I thought was separate from the council. But certainly, if that's a requirement, I can do that.
Okay, thank you. If there are no further questions for Dr. Porteous, could I invite Mrs. Mackenzie to please sum up?
I am sorry that you bought this lodge without even, you admitted you haven't even looked at it, because probably if you have, you would not actually purchase it for these purposes. You know yourself it's not suitable for a short-term let. The other ones is, yes, it is a holiday Airbnb village already. We are surrounded by them, but yours is completely just overlooking us and just looking into our garden. How is that even right? Would you buy this lodge if you knew what it's really like? We have zero privacy. When you're there, even last month, in the evening, the lights are on because of the design of this lodge with the glass window from ceiling to floor. And they don't even have, these people are so ignorant already, they don't even have a blind or a curtain or nothing. They just sit there staring at us already. This is completely taking away our privacy. Our children's swing is about 2 meters away from this makeshift non-existent border. Planting some little trees is not going to do anything. It's not going to take away from the problem. the seating area, we spend a lot of time in the garden. We've got every right to sit in the garden in the summertime with our friends, our family, their children. We don't have to be having all sorts of people looking at us, listening to what we're saying, or vice versa, us having to deal with them, do we? We've got the right to privacy. And I'm sorry, but it's just, it's not right.
Dr. Porteous, I do apologise. I've just got one further question, and it's about this is a new licensing application, and have you already been trading as a short-term let, and for how long?
No, I have not. We have been staying in the lodge as a family, and we have had some friends staying in the lodge on 3 separate occasions. Our insurance for the property needs to have it habited every 30 days. So either my in-laws have been staying from Edinburgh, or some friends have been staying there with their children. I can give you kind of dates and things if you wish, but approximately every 30 days we've had some friends in so that our insurance is not void.
Okay, thank you. I do apologise. So, Dr. Porteous, could I invite you please to sum up, please?
Sure. Thank you, everyone. In response to Mrs. Mackenzie, we bought the lodge off plan, and yes, I would buy it again. I feel relaxed and love being there with a view down the valley. The view of Mrs. Mackenzie's house that we see is the gable end with no windows. And when we're there, we very rarely see any comings and goings from the Mackenzie's house, as there isn't any lights visible or anything. Up until my visit last month, I didn't realise that there was seating area in the garden or a swing set, as every time we've been there in summer, the leaves have hidden it completely from view. I apologise for how close it is to them and what the purpose that it's been built for. And I'll certainly do everything I can ongoing to make things more comfortable for them. However, I can't change the locality to their house, sadly. I hope that you consider our application for a letting licence, as this is what these lodges have been built for, in a village with 19 lodges, where every other license application has been granted without objection. I hope you could consider our license. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, do you wish to adjourn for further discussion? Yes. We're going to adjourn for 5 or 10 minutes to discuss the matter further. Okay, thank you. Okay, my motion is to accept or give a license for 3 years. Do I have a seconder?
Yep, I'll second.
Are there any amendments to the motion? If there are no amendments to the motion, the license will be granted for 3 years, but Councillor Braun does have a request for Dr. Porteous.
Dr. Porteous, are you still on the line?
Yes. Hello?
Yeah. Yes, it's just obviously not a condition, but it's just a request. I think one of the concerns of Mrs. Mackenzie was the fact that people in the lodge can overlook. Would you be willing to install blinds or curtains in the windows to help protect her privacy? Can't be a condition.
Yes.
It's just a formal. It's just a request for you to try and mitigate the circumstances. Would you consider doing that?
No, certainly. We were planning to, but we just haven't got around to yet. There's very big windows, so it's quite expensive. But we are planning on putting up curtains.
Fine. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anna, we did have a lot of sympathy for you, but we felt that most of the objections you raised with us were more suited to planning issues than the licensing committee. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you, Anna. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Porteous. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Members, this application is on page 101 onwards from your document pack. It's for the grant of a short-term license, and for this item of business, we are joined in the chambers by the applicants, Anya and Richard Lumsden. The application is at the committee today following receipt of an objection. However, the objector is not present. I'll now hand over to Moyna McLaren, who will just introduce the reports and advise on the procedures for the hearing.
Yes, in terms of the procedure, what will happen is the objectors will outline their objection and the committee will ask questions of the objectors. Then yourselves, the applicants, will get an opportunity to give your side of your story about why you're applying and to respond to the objections. Then questions will be asked by the committee. Then the objectors can sum up, and yourselves will be given an opportunity to sum up. Thank you.
Members, we don't have Mr. and Miss. We do have Mr. and Mrs. Lumsden. I do apologise, Mr. and Mrs. Lumsden. Could you provide details of your application?
Good afternoon, sorry. Is that me, yeah?
So I will now once again invite Mr. and Mrs. Lumsden to provide details of the application and respond to the objection. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon, thank you. If you don't mind, I'll just a couple of minutes, I'll take you through a bit of background into our personal circumstances. So, having served the last 19 years of a 24-year career in the British Army, 12 years ago, the wife and I married in Pitlochry and completely fell in love with the place. Now, I'm mentioning that because it's been increasingly difficult for us to establish ourselves anywhere, relocating every 4 or 5 years in the army, most of which time has been overseas. We posted back to Scotland from overseas 5 years ago and found ourselves in the fortunate position to finally buy a property in Pitlochry that we could be something that we could be really proud of. It was the first time I ever got posting back to Scotland, and successfully we did buy a property 5 years ago, and we've been running it as an Airbnb successfully for the last 4.5 years. We are deeply passionate and proud to say that we own property in an area that we would one day love to call home. It really has been a labour of love. It's taken a lot of work to get to this point, and it's something that we get a lot of value in. We've got a really good customer base, a lot of returning customers, and it's something that we're deeply passionate about. So thank you for listening. Sorry.
Thank you. Do members have any questions? So Mr. Lumsden or Mrs. Lumsden? Councillor Braun?
Just a couple of questions, convener. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Just to clarify one point, are you still in the army yourself? Is that why you're not living there? Yeah, okay, that's why you're at Lucas.
I've just completed 19 years, 24 years service, so that gets me out October 29, with the ambition to one day live in Pitlochry.
So you're still in the army, fine. That clarifies the point. The other point I was going to ask was, going back to what the objector said, that she's talking about not feeling no longer secure. And I don't know if you want to make any comment on that. Obviously, we're not here. We can't clarify what she meant, but I understand that there's 4 flats in the block, and she's mentioned that 3 are now operating as Airbnb. Have you had any concerns about security for other owners? I suppose only one left is her, I suppose now.
So there's actually only 2 that are Airbnbs, because the other one has not been successful with their application. But we've never, in the 4.5 years, had a single noise complaint or any interaction with the lady that's complaining herself, because she doesn't actually live there herself. So we've never had any kind of interaction or been known of any noise complaints from anyone.
Thank you.
Councillor McPherson?
Oh, thank you. You say that you've had no difficulties or problems with anybody that's rented out the property. I mean, if there was a problem or some difficulties or a complaint, how would the complainant be able to remedy that in terms of making you aware? Thank you.
So everyone in the building does have a contact number for each other. For when it comes to any issues with any damages, we all, are all responsible for paying that together. So we all do have a contact number for each other. And, no one's ever contacted to say, oh, you have some noisy guests.
And if there was a problem, how do you have a nominated person locally who would be able to address the issue?
Yeah, so in the case that we're not around, we do have a local lady that has a set of keys, and she does the changeovers. And if there's any concerns, she is available to pop over, because she does in the past. If any lost keys, any time of night she'll pop over. So she is reliable enough to call upon for that kind of thing.
Thank you. Are there any further questions, sir? Mrs. Lumsden or Mr. Lumsden? Are there any questions online? No. Do members wish to adjourn for further discussion? Yeah. Yes. Okay. Sorry, we need to adjourn for a couple of minutes. Okay. Thank you. Okay, members, we're now moving on to item 8. Members, this application is on page 113 onwards of your documentation pack. For this item of business, we're joined via phone by applicants Kirsten Boyd. We're also joined, no, we're not joined by the objector. I will now hand over to Moyna McLaren, who will introduce the report and advise on the procedures for the meeting.
In this case, as the objector is not here, you'll be asked to outline why you want the short-term let, and also to respond to the points that the objector has made in their letter, and then just to sum up why you think that you should be having a licence.
Thank you.
you.
Are you there, Mrs. Boyd? Miss Boyd, I apologise.
Hello, I'm Kirsten
Hello
Boyd.
there.
Hi
hello
there.
there. Good. Susan, could I invite you to provide details of your application and invite to the objection? Respond to the objection.
You would like me to respond to the objection, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Yes, well, if I just go through the points of the objection, which is on And then I can probably give you a bit of background about myself. Point one, shortage of smaller properties at lower end of the housing market reduces the opportunity for young people to buy a home. By becoming a short-term let means this has removed a dwelling from supply. Well, I think that, first of all, what I would like to say is that I think that's a rather singular view of a very complex range of issues that impact a housing market. However, myself, I have a vested interest in keeping an eye on the market, and in Blairgowrie in particular, I note for quite some time that there is generally a range of housing available for sale across a broad range of prices, some of which have not sold. But notwithstanding that, it should be noted that this property was purchased by my nephew in June 2017, and he is 28 years of age. So he owns this property as a young person. Circumstances have changed. I don't know if that's valid for you. And his father, my brother, and my husband then proceeded to, in their spare time, restore the property, which had not been inhabited for some time. It was infested and in a complete state of repair, and it had a very sympathetic restoration, which I am sure was welcomed in the community at the time. That's point one. Point two, existing residents and neighbours had no say when this property became a short-term let a few years ago. Now that I have a say, I am objecting. Yes, I have to say I don't think that's been our finest hour, and with hindsight, of course, things would have been done differently, and the priorities we were dealing with at the time, this should have been a top priority. And just out of complete respect to our neighbours, we ought to have let them know face to face before we had our first guests. I think, in truth, and that's what I want to be, it would be unlikely that we would have face to face advised this person. There had been elements of tension in the course of the restoration of the house, involving our right-of-way access path at the back of the house, and clearly someone, I don't know to this day, holds a key, and we could find when we were shipping in materials that the gate would just be locked, and we had no other way of bringing in materials to restore the house. So I don't feel I would have gone, as it probably would have just aggravated a situation. Point four, we never know who's living at 4 Mitchell Square from one day to the next, and I take that on board. I think that change that is introduced in any community, no matter its size, is a really difficult thing, and everybody has different ways of dealing with change. For my own perspective, because I stay at the house at least once a week through the summer months, and at other times when the house is very quiet, we use it as a family. I note that Mitchell Square is a bit of a rat run. It's a one-way street. It's an access to the properties beyond. It's roads out to Dunkeld and other ways. It's used by pedestrians to gain access to the town. There's a public house at the end of the road. When that empties, I too do not know from one day to the next who is accessing the street. But, you know, I think that for time in memoriam, Scotland has been a place where people have been welcoming to visitors and put their houses out on a market for others to use. And that has always been the case, that if you were able to access a holiday property in Scotland, the communities would have differing views. Point 5, our close-knit community in this part of Blairgowrie will be hollowed out, as in other parts of Scotland, if short-term lets are allowed to continue to proliferate in an older part of town. So what I think I probably feel about that is that Scotland as a nation relies heavily on the tourism industry, and a number of platforms, including Perth and Kinross Council, promote areas of Perth and Kinross, and in particular Blairgowrie, to fishermen, to skiers, to hill walkers, to cyclists, to golfers. And what we offer is a small, quiet place for people to come and spend a night. I've certainly found in the years that I've let the property that what we have are family returning to Blairgowrie to visit family. They are returning guests. I've got returning guests, and I certainly have people who come for 1 or 2 nights, and they're not there to sit in the house. They're there to go out and enjoy the wider aspects of the countryside. So I suppose my view on that is that as a town, Blairgowrie is thriving, but it definitely needs investment, and tourism is part of that. I have really positive reviews from the people who use the house, and when I communicate with the people via Airbnb, and they are issued with a fairly extensive set of advice that asks them to be respectful to our community, not to park the car anywhere in the street. I don't promote that I have a rear garden. I don't stop anyone using it, but they don't know. It's not advertised. There are no barbecues. The rules of the property are that there are no parties. I'm in Blairgowrie twice a week during the probably from April all the way through to the beginning of November. I employ the same cleaner who is in the house after every guest has left, so I'm in probably 3 times weekly contact with her just on day-to-day business. She will come and help me with any issue. I have a couple of friends who also have Airbnbs in Blairgowrie, and I can call on them, as I did recently for myself when my power went off and somebody came around to help. I'm an hour and a half away in the car, and so we can come and respond to any issues that may arise. There was a question that I haven't answered, which was about the wording of a disturbance. So we received a complaint from Airbnb regarding neighbour guests who were causing a disturbance. I phoned the guests at that point, and they did seem a little bit surprised. It was 3 ladies, they were touring. But I said to them that we'd received the complaint, and if they were doing anything, just stop it now. I have a contact number for my immediate neighbour, and they said that they had not heard anything, but they had seen 3 ladies leave the following morning. I had driven up the following morning with my brother, and we spoke to the neighbour who it turned out had phoned Airbnb, and the disturbance was the banging of the doors. So we established if our rear back door is open and the front door is open, there's a wind tunnel and these doors banged. So we fitted door closers to the internal doors, and we have not had any complaints from Airbnb since that first incident. So that I think is probably my responses to the objections.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Boyd. Do members have any questions for Ms. Boyd? There are no questions for you, Ms. Boyd. Do members wish to adjourn for discussion? Yeah, Ms. Boyd, we're going to adjourn for discussion for a few minutes. Thank you. Thank you, members. Thank you everybody for your patience. My motion is to grant a license for 3 years, along with an additional condition that someone should be made available to address any issues or complaints that may arise. The telephone number should be made available to neighbours and guests. Do I have a seconder?
Happy to second.
Are there any amendments to the motion? If there are no amendments to the motion, then the license is granted for 3 years, Ms. Boyd.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody, for your attendance today. I know it's been a bit of a marathon, but hopefully we're getting over the lump of the short-term lets applications. But thank you very much for coming in today and giving up your time. Thank you.
Well done. Our pleasure.
Thank you.
Have a good day.